Okay, guys, the moment has arrived for our favorite and most exciting segment of the show, as always, and that's a moment in African history. Chef's kiss. So, today we're going deep into the colonial era archives. I hardly ever do colonial stories in Nigeria. I've done colonial stories in Congo and all that, but it's not a colonial story. It happened during colonial times. It's not the same thing, okay? It's not sadness or anything like that. It's just happened to happen in the 20s, okay? I'm going to tell a very famous story of Dr. KOFO Abayomi. I'm sure people who are listening already know what I'm talking about. It's a very famous story from Lagos, right? Do you know the street, KOFO Abayomi Street in Lagos? It's a very popular one, okay? And it's named after this popular doctor who lived back then. So I'm going to tell you why we're telling this story today. Serena, you have to listen to this, yeah? It's how his act of love towards his equally famous wife is the stuff that legend is made of. So let's roll back time as we tell the tale. It's a good one. So, in 1897, Sarkitoye Ajasa, a nobleman from the Saro tribe of Nigeria, Yoruba, was the first Nigerian to be presented with a knighthood by the British, and Lucretia Olayinka Moore, a daughter of a monarch of Egba, a subgroup of the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria, had a daughter whom they named Oyinkansola Ajasa. That's Oyinko Ajasa. Okay? So she came from noble people. She came from, and that was in 1897. So Oyinko attended Anglican Girls Seminary School in Lagos, Nigeria, and she graduated in 1909. Afterwards, she attended the Young Ladies Academy in Gloucestershire, England, and in 1897, she got admission to Royal Academy of Music in London. So imagine her parents had enough money in the 1900s to send her to England to school. So do you get that? Her parents had enough money in the 1900s to send her from Lagos to England. This would be by ship back in those days to school. That's the pedigree she comes from. In 1920, Oyinka moved back to Lagos after her studies, where she worked in the educational sector. She's well known. So many things are named after her. That same year, she met a Nigerian lawyer named Morunfula Abayomi. The two fell in love deeply and married in 1923. Unfortunately, the marriage was short-lived when Abayomi was assassinated while in court just 2 months after their marriage. Just 2 months, so she was a young bride when he died. That happened in 1923. Devastated by the death of her husband, Oyinkan vowed never to forget her husband and never to marry again. She had no intention of remarrying, so she poured herself into her work. She continued to work in the educational sector, mostly on girls' and women's education. Oyinkan held several prominent positions and organized fundraising programs to help promote girls' rights to education in the country. While she was busy with her work, she met a man named KOFO John. KOFO was a Nigerian medical doctor, so it was Dr. John, who was deeply fascinated by her to the point of proposing marriage. But Oyinkan bluntly refused his proposal. She expressed that she had no intentions of remarrying, as she didn't want to change her name from her late husband's name to another man. So she was Oyinkan Ajasa, and she became Oyinkan Abayomi after her husband. And now if she married again, she would have to change her name to her husband's name, as was the time in those days. Still, Dr. John, was persistent. He insisted he'll do anything to have her as his wife. And so she presented him with the ultimatum: I'll marry you if you agree to take up my husband's name. Thinking that would scare him off, and it will mean defying societal norms. Remember, this was the 1920s, guys. An African man, a Yoruba man in the 1920s. But to her surprise, Dr. KOFO immediately agreed to her condition. And so in 1930, the two got married, and he changed his name from KOFO John to KOFO Abayomi. Oyinkansola had her wish, and she no longer had to change her name. She remained Mrs. Abayomi. The two went on to do great things in their fields, in their respective fields, as Oyinkansola continued to make waves in the education and women's rights sector, and her husband KOFO Abayomi made waves as an ophthalmologist and politician. Dr. KOFO Abayomi died in January 1, 1979 at the age of 83, and several years later, on March 19, 1990, Oyinkansola Abayomi died at the age of 93. This proves the power of love and the fact that a man will do anything for the woman he loves. This story in Lagos, even when I was growing up, Everybody knew the story because the street, there's a major road named after him called KOFO ABAYOMI. So that wasn't even his name. I remember my mother telling me the story when I was about maybe 8 or 9. I was like, what? And so imagine in the 90s and 80s, and it was still shocking. Now imagine what it must have been like in the 1920s when he did this. And the thing is that he didn't do it and nobody knew. Everybody knew who she was. Everybody in society at that time knew who she was. So the fact that he changed his name was a major, major thing. And he just changed it casually. From today, I'm KOFO ABAYOMI. Yeah, if that's what it takes to marry you, big deal. And that's it. So can I see that picture again, please? So, what do you think? Power of love?
That's so lovely.
It is. It is. When they're in Lagos, I'll take you to KOFO ABAYOMI Street. So, what do you think about that?
You love a love story.
I do. And it's just incredible that these people lived. These people now, I cross-position this thing, Serena, all the time, right? This is the 1920s in pedigreed Lagos. And imagine what the blacks in America were going through at that same time. Do you know how much they've lost? You know, like they were there, like fighting society, trying to get into those. They had just moved. The Great Migration had just happened, so they were all living in like ghettos and projects in the north, and those on the south. In the south, were still sharecropping and working on farms. Slavery had ended and all of that, but they were like really in dire straits economically, right? Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, people were living like this. People like achieving, and not just achieving, but the respect they had in society. You know, it's not about achieving; it's about the way they were treated back in America, and then with these people are like basically a king, like royalty, like societal royalty at the same point in time. Because people say don't go back in time. If you're a black person, don't go back in time because you know, if you go back in history, then you're going to be either a slave or you're going to be fighting segregation or whatever. But that's an American story. These people could go back in time today and live like this, and they were fine. They're fine. Not to talk of in the north, things were happening in the north, in Abonima, where I'm from, in Kenya at the time. You know, God knows what was happening. The differences, you know, in this experiences. It's just part of the whole black experience. It's incredible. KOFO ABAYOMI, yes. Onika ABAYOMI. She also has a street named after her, a major street in a very, very upscale part of Lagos, named after her as well. Because she was just not somebody's wife. She did incredible things herself. You know, these people were people. They were people, like real people. Incredible. So that was our history slice for this week. Incredible. We loved it. So rest in peace to both of them. They lived wonderful long lives, 83 and 93. That's a good time to live. Right, so Majida, before we go quickly, I'm going to test your language skills. I can't do a Hausa tongue twister because I will fail myself, but I can play with you with a Yoruba one. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say it and then you're going to try and repeat it. That's all. Okay?
Okay.
We'll break it down to pieces. So I'm going to say the whole thing, then we'll break it down to pieces. Okay? Mora dodo nido. Moje dodo nido. Moa forward dodo. Pomo dodo nido. All right? You got it? So you're like, don't look at me. Do not call me. So, Mora dodo nido.
Mora dodo nido.
Not bad. Moje dodo nido.
Moje dodo nido.
Mo wa fọwọ́ dòdò. Pọmọ dòdò. Ní dòdò. Nídò. No, but so it means I bought dodo at Ido. I ate the dodo at Ido. Then I used my hands, which had dodo, to hit the dodo seller on the navel at Ido. Very daft meaning, as always. So, Shayla, your turn. Mora dodo nido.
Mora dodo nido.
Moje dodo nido. Mo wa fọwọ́ dòdò. Mo wa fọwọ́ dòdò. Pọmọ dòdò. Nídò. Yeah, perfect, beautiful. There's only the pa, and I know you don't have that in your language, and that's okay. Do you guys have the pa sound in Hausa?
I don't know.
Pa. Yeah, we have work to do. You know what I'm talking about? You know that pa like sound. Pomo, exactly, like pomo, like bele, that pa sound. Okay, so one more time. Mora dodo nido. Moje dodo nido. Mo wa fọwọ́ dòdò. Pomo dodo. Nido. Beautiful. Close bombs, please, for Hawa. You did great. So that you did great too. All right, and that's it. That's our show. Quickly before we go, one proverb. Sharona's gonna hate me. She's gonna hate me. One proverb, one, because I do love our proverbs. What's the wisdom we pass down to the generations in Africa. We use them all the time. They're our heritage and we share them. So this one is coming from South Africa. It says, I missed it. Beware of the naked man who offers you clothes. Okay? Beware of the naked man who offers you clothes. Don't need to explain that, do I?
No.
One more for the road. Do not be in a hurry to swallow when chewing is pleasant. That's from Ghana. Do not be in a hurry to swallow when chewing is pleasant. Don't need to explain that either, do I? You got it? You don't need to explain proverbs. You get them or you don't get them. All right, that's our show. 2 hours of amazing, amazing pleasantry. Thank you so much for being here. How can you come back anytime? So you can come back anytime, right? Best guest. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Have you had a good time?
Yes.
Thank you for sharing all your opinions. We've talked about everything. We went to Zimbabwe, South Africa. We went to, where did we go? Kenya. We went to Nigeria. We're all over Africa in this show. And so we're going to be here again next week. I'll be playing you more exciting interviews, spotlights, history, music, and everything in between. Until then, stay proudly African. This is Bibi signing out. And this is Zukeri by Shuku. Enjoy and see you next week. Bye.